Hey, so as you can see, I'm inside again. I'm in my office, so we're going to continue from here. We learned about a swim lane and talk about process mapping and spaghetti diagram, right? So now I'm going to deep dive into how to do process mapping. Okay, what are the best methods and how to do it, how to organize. Okay, so first, be sure that you know what you're mapping, right? Understanding the sequence of activities, who is responsible, or sometimes how long does it take, depending what kind of objective that you're going for, right? So find out what if you're going to a swim lane or a process chart or a spaghetti diagram. Find out what you need to find out, who are you going to talk to, what are the steps that need to be done, who are the people that you need to talk to. Okay. And then we're going to go into this mixture of methods, right? So it's always better to have mixed methods to collect the data. And we're going to talk about primary and secondary observations. Okay, so the primary observations, we call it primary because these are the ones that are more, let's say, close to what actually is happening. So you're either looking at someone doing their job or the person doing their job, so you can see what the person is doing, how the person is doing, right? So you're either walking or shadowing and seeing, and usually we can do that also online with the all share screen technology that we have today. You can do that, right? Just say, okay, what are you doing? Click here, I'm clicking there, I'm clicking there, and ask the person to kind of explain you what's going on and what's in her mind, and verbalizing that. So that's what we call primary observations. In shop floor, what you can do is just follow the person doing their job and ask them to, explain what they're doing, right? So for spaghetti diagrams, for example, we're always doing that. We shadow the person, either in a forklift or walking distance, or you following the product throughout the process steps, right? That's what we call primary observations. The secondary observations is when someone is telling you what they're doing or what they're used to do, or a supervisor, a manager is telling what another person is doing, right? So you're interviewing, and people are giving their perception, right? You can be work session, also other types of doing that. So, and usually that's kind of the yellow thing there. Usually we start by a secondary observation. We have a call, a meeting, and say, oh, can you guys explain how the process is? And then the person kind of, or the manager or a team, just say, oh, we do this, and that, right? So you have like an overview of what's being done, but it's not in depth enough to improve the process. Okay, so then what follows the secondary? So the secondary usually come before the primary, and I know it's tricky, but uh, keep that in mind. So first the secondary, so know what's going on, and then the primary, you're going to find out a lot of things that people don't tell you. They don't tell you because they're not used to explain their own process. So when you're explaining what you do, and it doesn't matter if it's like a complex production planning, sequencing, whatever step you're doing, your mind kind of has shortcuts, and then when you're telling someone, you have those shortcuts. It's like telling your mom or dad how to cook a meal or do a recipe, right? And if you don't have it right down, you just the person start explaining to you, this person can jump a few steps and doesn't realize it's jumping a few steps because they're not doing the job. So secondary will have an overview, primary observations, which is shadowing and having actually being there together with the person doing their job, is going to give you a lot more detail. So that's why you need to do both. And then you have kind of more information about that process and more things to look at, more details, right? So here are some tools. Observation forms. So we very often create forms to collect data, measuring stick and stopwatch, measuring wheel that I talked to you guys about, just as kind of wheel that you can measure the feet that you're walking. In secondary, we use a lot of butcher paper, brown paper, sticker notes, rulers, and kind of sometimes bring this together before you actually put it into kind of nice and clean and beautiful kind of PowerPoint presentation. Usually doing very kind of a rough way, an exercise of building that map together. And then when it's ready, you go in and try to make it pretty and beautiful with softwares and that kind of stuff, right? Why is that? Because usually the first version you change a lot because people discuss, no, I don't do that. This is before this and this is before that. So it's easy to move things around with butcher paper and post-it notes than it is with the software, right? When you're trying to make it prettier at the same time. So here are some tips when you're doing the secondary observation. Ask the person to describe the steps. Ask questions for clarifications. Need to focus. Take a lot of notes, and record the sessions. Always record the sessions. So you can, if you don't remember something, you go back and see, right? Especially when you guys are not trained to do that. You're doing that for the first time or second time. Take as many notes as you can and record it so you can go back. What we don't want is to ask again and again and again the same question, or spend 20 minutes or 30 minutes discussing something and that someone said in an interview, and we could just go back and see, and that will be quick and easy, right? So take a look at the details. The whole magic is on the details, right? So ask precise questions. Think that you have to know how to do the process without that person there. That's the level of detail that you need to know about what you're going to improve. You're going to improve something that someone is working doing that for hours and hours and hours and a day and many many days or years, right? They're doing that, and you need to come up with a better solution. So you need to know exactly what that person is doing to be able to give solutions to improve that process, right? It's not that easy. Details with the problems, and at times it if they needed to be times or other kind of process details. Always be, nice and thankful, and butcher paper, as I said, is a good visual tool. We're gonna see other tools here, and usually we have some follow up questions, things that when you review your notes, you find out, oh, we didn't ask that, and then you have follow ups, and that's okay. So you have in your notes in page. Let's take a look. So I'm opening page 21 of the class notes. So hopefully you printed the class note as I told you to do that. Did you? Did you? And your class notes have other notes that you added. And here is the script, right? So just an example. You guys can read through that to understand how in depth the process have to be, right? So here have kind of a transcription. No, I don't want to do that. Whoops. Now I did something wrong. Go back. Okay. So here have descriptions and questions and things that kind of help you guys understand how in depth these kind of questions and this kind of interviews are. Okay. So quite often we create some forms to help collect data. So this is one example of a secondary observation form where we have columns. Imagine that this is just going to be here, right? So just one example line, and it's an operation. You have the description of the process, inputs, outputs, how long it takes, who's involved, what system. So sometimes we create, those forms so we're sure that we're collecting all the data, right? Is there confusion? How skipped, rework? So we can collect the same amount of data and be sure that all interviews were going through the same amount of data, okay? Here we have another example from primary observations. So you're going to have that in an Excel spreadsheet from measure phase, and this is the one that we collect data on a shop floor. So you're shadowing the person doing the job, right? And you're seeing them repeating the job over and over again. So here you have location, team, and here the time to complete the step, distance traveled, step description, what equipment you use, what kind of step it was, right, and some comments. So, pretty often when we go to shop floor projects or more projects that are about moving material or something like that, and warehouses. Or I did one in the hospital that we were looking at the equipment cleaning process. So whatever equipment like respirators or pumps and IV pumps and stuff like that, they're used by a patient they have to clean it to be used by the next patient. And many departments in the hospital have the same equipment there from whenever they need. So we looked at the process of uh, getting the dirty material, the equipment, cleaning, and putting it back, right? And what the students did is that they just follow, many days following the different routes that the employees had to pick up the materials in different departments and bring back to the second floor where they clean it and put it back. So we use a very similar map form that this one is showing this example.